Like, see your mind producing this hope of becoming enlightened. And who are you if you're nobody? When I was 27, or 27, I went and lived with my ex-partner in Australia. So I was a little bit successful, not very successful. Actually, maybe I was quite successful for my age in writing. I'd written some plays and I'd done quite well and got some recognition and won a few competitions. And it wasn't like having my play on Broadway or anything, or like earning money from it. I didn't earn money, but just doing that in playwriting world is quite a accomplishment. It's quite hard to get to that. And then when I was 26 and 27, like I was just having a bit of a crisis in a way. No, not a crisis, that's not quite right. But I just couldn't do the normal thing that everyone else was doing. And eventually I went to live with my ex-partner, who was my teacher in Australia. And when I went to live there, I gave up everything. So I'd built this life. I had a home in London, and I worked with kids with emotional, part-time with kids with emotional behavioral difficulties, and I did quite well at that. I had the playwriting, I had friends, I had everything. And then I quit all of that quite drastically, and I went and lived in Australia for 3 years in quite a remote area, and I didn't really know anyone. And it was such an amazing experience because I really learned how to be without having anything. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a home. I mean, I was living in my ex-partner's house, but it's like wasn't really my home. Like I had a home before, but I mean, in some ways it was my home, but it wasn't mine. I didn't own it. I didn't own any things. I didn't have a really good job. I did massage at the retreat center next door, but I didn't do that much. Predominantly, I was gardening, and I just had nothing. And I gave up on the internet. I kept contact with some friends, but not many. And for those 3 years, I was just an absolute nobody. I just didn't exist in the world anymore. I just totally withdrew from the world. And what happened was that I began to have like waves of being happy without being anyone. And this is what really cracked things for me, like really began to break things, was that I noticed that happiness was not dependent on being someone and being successful, but I really knew it, not just intellectually knew it, like learned it in a talk. I really began to see that I could be in the middle of Australia with nothing, have absolutely nothing to my name, and I could just be beaming with love and light and beaming. And I could also be in hell. I could also be deeply suffering as well. But doing that for 3 years, like really made me see the fast of it all, of creating it all. Like happiness isn't dependent on being successful. It's not dependent on being a writer. Like I was so committed to being a writer. It's not dependent on any of that. Like your happiness is your birthright, and it's right here, right now, in this. And it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, whether you're writing, being successful, being shamed, being liked, being not liked. You're here. There is this isness, and this is your home. This is your foundation. This is what's always appearing. When I eventually, Roger kicked me out, and then I kind of lost my life there. Like I didn't really have much of a life, but at least I kind of had a home. I had a vegetable garden. I had my dogs, and I had my day-to-day existence. And I had Roger, and I had my visa for living in Australia. And then he kicked me out, and I went to Bali. And it could have been like a moment where I really suffered. Like I really had nothing now. Like I'd gone from England where I had all these things, all these possibilities. And then I went to Australia and I had less. And then I got kicked out and had absolutely nothing. And just had this profound sense that it's the same I am. It's the same presence no matter what. No matter where you go, your essence is there, and that's your true freedom. It's not what you do on the surface. And it's from that that you live and you orientate life. And that's this love that's vibrating. Earlier I was saying, like, moving from that love. Like, that's the love that you need to move from. This vibration. But it's not really a human thing. It's just, yeah, it's hard to put into words, that part. I can feel it, but I can't put it into words. It all comes out as contradictions and everyone's like, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but. At first I thought, that's a bad dream. Later I realized absolutely nothing was real before in my story, just a play, a big illusion. It's real and unreal, that's the irrelevant part. The relevant part is that back in that experience and now you still have the same presence. It's the same sense of being. You can't ever lose yourself. It's just the characters and the environment seem to be different. You can't ever lose yourself. You are here, that's your foundation, that's your home, that's your truth. Everything else comes and goes. Everything else will go in death. And when you cling on to that and you believe that that's your happiness and that that's your freedom, that your home is your freedom, your job is your freedom, your reputation is a freedom, you will suffer because it's a false illusion. That is not your freedom. Your freedom is this. That is something that passes and comes and goes and is nice and pleasant and then unpleasant and it's pleasurable and not pleasurable. But what else is here? What is the same in both experiences? And that's the nowness. And the nowness is free of everything. It's free of any mental interpretations.